SWOT analysis, another very powerful and popular method where we go into the four strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Note the small t right here. We also determine what is the trend. The important thing about trend is that if your product is the currently most wanted category, then you would have to re-emphasize your strengths and weaknesses and even the opportunities or threats, right? Just for example, again, healthcare industry. If the current trend is to use a lot of glove, then as a glove manufacturer, this is your opportunities as well because the demand is strong. You would have a lot of power to negotiate prices. But you have to consider the threat as well. If the demand is so strong, will the supply catch up with your demand? Do you have enough raw material to support the increasing demand? So all these factors needs to be considered. And of course, we would consider the internal factors as well, right? It's quite straightforward, I would say. You would understand your strengths and weaknesses of a company internally. The tricky part about internal factors is that some people tend to be in the blind spot, so they are not able to see what is the strength or weaknesses. The best way is always talk to people from different departments as well, or even your direct superior to see out from the boxes. Do not work in silo, right? So this would be a quick intro about SWOT. We will go into detail in next slide. So give yourself time when you analyze the areas here. Try to be as realistic and as rigorous as you can. Remember, you want to prioritize the factors when you summarize later. Put the most important tips on top. So now typically you would see we have internal factors and external factors. Internal factors are usually derived from your company or from the supplier company, while external factors are those that will have an impact to your opportunities and threats. Starting with strength, you have to consider what are the company's strengths in relation to the product or services. What is better than anyone else, and how do the people in market see it as your strength? While you are dealing with one project for a long time, you might be blindfolded. You might take it as a very normal thing, so you have to think outside the box. What is better than anyone else if you compare A to B? So don't just look at one supplier or one thing alone. You have to compare with other product or other suppliers so that you won't be blindsided. Now moving on to weaknesses, think about what are the weaknesses for that particular product or services. Typically it could be from the link of what could your supplier improve in terms of their services or product, or what are the things that you or the supplier should avoid so that you can give them more sales, so that they can gain the trust from your client. And also, similar to strength, you have to compare to other people as well. What do outsiders see it as weaknesses? Now, you might be confused here. Am I doing this from a company perspective or from supplier perspective? Now, you always have to remember, set your objective right. If you are doing this SWOT analysis for your supplier, of course, you would be doing this from the supplier perspective, right? But however, today you would like to analyze your own business using SWOT analysis, then this would be your own strengths and weaknesses. So never be confused and always remember what is your target. Target is so important because you will be confused if you do not have one. So always remember what is your target and what is your objective. Write it down when you start this analysis. Now next, let's see what are the external factors and how could we derive for opportunities. So typically the opportunities lies in the market or economy or the technology here. For example, the economy is in the downturn now. Are you able to secure some of the product or services that is in mass now? For example, a product or services that there are so many competitors out there. There are so many products out there that you can choose, that you have to leverage. So this would be your opportunities. Threats, again, it's usually from internal as well as external. So think it from the obstacle perspective. What are the obstacles you are facing or your supplier is facing right now? Is it the cash flow or debt problem? Or is it the supply and demand imbalance? Or if you really can't think of a threat from external point of view, link it to the weaknesses. Says your weakness is on the delivery, then this could be your threat, right? Because your client might want to have the fastest delivery, especially people nowadays, they're impatient. So delivery would be your threats, and it would definitely be something for you to improve on. Something could be your ultimate opportunities in the future. Now, last but not least, we have trend. What direction are the markets trending? For example, during COVID pandemic, almost everyone, I would say, are hunting for mask and glove. So if your company or your suppliers need this PPE or healthcare equipment, you are definitely on the right trend. You could rework into your pricing as opportunity. You can see whether you can develop new products and definitely increase your supply capacity. But however, if you are in the luxury goods line and people may not wish to spend so much money during a downturn, economic downturn due to COVID, then you would have to relook into how can you switch your business or how can your suppliers switch that. The trend is not on luxury goods. So what could you do in terms of the opportunities here to boost your sales? Going online, digital marketing, discount. So it all depends on the 4 quadrants here plus trends. Every time we talk about gathering information, we have to make sure the information is useful, right? So make sure you turned all the gathered information into strategies. This is a very straightforward one for you. If your strength, use your strength to increase your opportunities. Use your strength to reduce the threats that you have to minimize the risk. And of course, if you have weaknesses, find out what are the weaknesses that would limit your opportunity and try to improve your weaknesses. Okay? And definitely, if you have weaknesses, eliminate that again to avoid threats. So these are pretty straightforward. Again, it depends on what is the complexity scale that you have for your project. You can decide what sort of market intelligence information or tools that you want to use.